Apple's best laptop is right here. Hey, what? No? Apple's best laptop is right here. The 14-inch 2021 14-inch MacBook Pro. I want to show you exactly what the worth of this machine is to us as writers. But let's get something important out of the way first. You're a writer. I'm a writer. No, we do not need an extremely expensive new MacBook Pro. But that doesn't mean we can't have one or that we shouldn't have one. Being a writer does not mean that we aren't allowed the benefits of this type of machine, and there are benefits. I wouldn't be talking to you about it if there weren't, and I also wouldn't have spent all of this money. So, well, yeah, it is true. You will see more of the benefits, you'll see more of the worth. You'll see the most value if you're doing a bit more than typing in Word or Pages of Final Draft. But I can tell you that you still see a worth, a benefit, even when, yeah, you are just typing in Word and Pages and Final Draft. Let me show you. Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which as ever, as always, is for writers like you and me who use and write on Macs and actually also iPhones and iPads. Do subscribe, because I mean we always have so much to talk about, but not least today. Today, this is a special. This is a 3 Biscuit guide to the MacBook Pro. Normally, 3 Biscuit guides, they're 58 Keys episodes about software. I mean, around every month, every 6 weeks or so, 58 Keys has this extended episode that's really a deep dive into, say, Scrivener or Apple Notes. And there are ones coming as a playlist building of Pages, Final Draft. They're coming up next. But I want to take that same deep dive idea and show you the MacBook Pro from our perspective, from the perspective of writers. And I do very specifically mean show. Take a look at this, please. It's a screen recording of me using an Intel Mac Mini. And just to ruin the excitement, what it shows is me opening Pages and opening a new blank document, copy typing the opening of Pride and Prejudice, making a PDF of that, emailing that PDF to myself, separately then opening Safari, going to a website I particularly like, downloading a script, and then opening that downloaded script in Preview. Now, I have no intention of talking specifications with you. I mean, you and I, we both know a faster machine is a faster machine. And putting numbers on it, well, to me, it's like just kind of underlining that fact. It doesn't give me anything more. It doesn't give me how it feels to be using things. Still, it took me 4 minutes and 54 seconds to do all of that copy typing stuff on an Intel Mac Mini, and just 3 minutes 16 to do exactly the same on the new MacBook Pro. Even then, I mean, that's faster. It's not gigantically faster. It felt faster still, especially at the point where I'm going to Safari to look up a script. I mean, I look at this Intel Mac Mini now and I wonder, how in God's name did I ever have the patience to wait that long over and over again? Actually, tell you what, let's do this properly. I'll cut things, I'll speed things up a bit, yeah, but I think you'll get this better. I think I'll show you better if I show you the Intel Mac Mini and the new MacBook Pro side by side. Now, I'm not going to zoom in to show details, so you're not going to necessarily be able to read the text of Pride and Prejudice on the screen, but you will see how the typing goes on. Besides, it's such a great book. You don't read me typing it, read Jane Austen's whole thing. Okay. Afterwards, obviously. First, here's the Intel Mac Mini, here's the new MacBook Pro, and purely for fun, here's an M1 Apple Silicon Mac Mini and an M1 iPad Pro, all doing the same thing. Let's play our game. I think the very first thing to notice, an important qualification here, is that you see the displays are all different sizes. Of course they are. 14-inch MacBook Pro, and that one in the bottom left there, the Mac Mini, the M1 Mac Mini, that's actually driving a 49-inch screen. Yeah, so that's more than the 14-inch MacBook Pro, but the 14-inch MacBook Pro is dramatically higher resolution. So I don't even know how to quantify the difference, just notice there is a difference, and the Mac is having to do a lot to display these things on these different screens. Next up, I would also like to point out that, yeah, I did become very familiar with the text of Pride and Prejudice. I mean, I've already read the book many times and I love it, but when you type it, doubtlessly I would get faster as if I was doing this one after another. So I didn't do that. I suppose I did one after another, but I spread it out as long as I could. So the Intel Mac Mini, for example, I did that one first, and I did that before the 14-inch MacBook Pro had even arrived. And then I think I did the iPad Pro last, because it suddenly occurred to me that that's also an M1. How interesting that could be to put it together. Looking at all of this, though, I would also like to ask you please not to zoom in a moment if you see anything coming up that you shouldn't. I don't think you will. I'm a little surprised at the differences between these machines. I mean, the obvious one is just even now already you can see the 14-inch MacBook Pro is further ahead through the text than the rest. Maybe I was just having a good typing day, but I don't think so. I did actually consider writing something new for each of these, writing something new and different for these four, but then would we be measuring how imaginative I was feeling that day? Besides, can I write as well as this? Yeah, don't answer that. Looking around this screen though, where are we going? The iPad is doing pretty well. All the M1s actually, excuse me, it's an M1 Max in the MacBook Pro. They're all doing well. MacBook Pro far in the lead. Intel Mac Mini, this is me typing, okay? And looking at them now, I'm surprised how slow it is. But as you're doing it, that's just your typing speed, isn't it? You don't think about it as much. So it's only when they're together that you see it and when you see the final result for it. Except it was also actually the first thing I noticed when I moved to the MacBook Pro. When I started typing anything, it wasn't Pride and Prejudice. I was writing an article and I thought, well, this is coming out really rather nicely. Oh, hang on. In MacBook Pro, we're exporting to a PDF. Although the Macs are doing it, and now actually we seem to be also doing it on the Intel Mac Mini. That's faster than I was expecting. Emailing to myself on the MacBook Pro. Okay, Intel Mac Mini slow, behind still again. It's like it's faster at some things, slower at others. M1 Mac Mini doing okay, emailing for it. Okay, I think it's not very fair to show the iPad one because it's such a different process of sending things around, but it's the same job. Is what we're doing. Notice all of those addresses there. I'm probably going to have to cover up those addresses, aren't I? But we send, and now actually, we're way ahead. I completely missed on the MacBook Pro. We've already gone through the whole thing of opening Safari. We've finished. What I didn't notice, and maybe you did, was the open Safari, found a script, downloaded it, opened it, and preview started reading it, and that's where we've got to now. That's where we are right now on the iPad Pro, downloading the US version of scripts. M1 Mac Mini is behind, but only just. Intel Mac Mini, this is the thing that killed me. I couldn't believe how slow Safari was. This is just loading up on Safari. This time could be my internet connection, but it's the same internet connection on all of them, so it doesn't seem... I mean, I can't think of an obvious reason why it was so bad that day and not others, but still, look at that. iPad Pro finished as well. How are we doing with the other two? Yeah, it's getting there a little bit. Is it? Okay. Right. And we're down left with just the Intel Mac Mini to go. My voice is going really slow now, too, which isn't fair. Intel Mac Mini last. One last point to this bit. You just saw 4 screen recordings. I used an app called ScreenFlow on the 3 Macs, and because that was running, each Mac was slowed down by it. I mean, I don't know by how much, and it wasn't enough that I care, but once it was done recording, I then had to get ScreenFlow to export the video into a form that I could show you. The Intel Mac Mini took about 3 minutes 45 seconds to do that. The M1 Mac Mini took about 3 minutes 30 seconds, and the MacBook Pro took 1 minute 30. In each case, that was barely long enough to go make some tea. Listen, I suspect, since we are both writers, that tea or maybe coffee, maybe some other kind of beverage, I'm not judging it, that features in our lives more than we think it should, and more than, for example, top of my head, video editing. Only video editing, it's like writing with images, and it also stresses out the Mac more than just about anything else that I can do to it. So please let me show you something more, just a little bit more. As this first goes out, it's December the 1st, 2021, and last week's 58 Keys was written, filmed, edited in every possible way, produced on this MacBook Pro while I sat there on my backside on the couch drinking too much tea. Do take care of yourself, okay? Write more, and I'll see you soon. Now, can I go back to full screen? Oh, apparently yes. Hello. Right, that was the end, usually the end of a recording for a 58 Keys episode, which is about the first setting up of a new MacBook Pro. I planned that edition here on my couch using the MacBook Pro. I filmed it on the MacBook Pro, and I'm going to edit it on the MacBook Pro. Look, if you've watched any YouTube videos about the new MacBook Pro, and of course I did before I was buying one, you will have seen, I have seen a lot of people talking about video editing. It's because they edit video. What's the thing we keep being told as writers? Write what you know. Yeah. But okay, I'm not planning to examine statistics about video editing on 58 Keys, but I am going to take this chance to urge you to do it too. If you don't already edit video, find some video and edit it, because video editing, it uses the same, writing muscles that you and I have, that you and I use all the time in our writing. I mean, obviously how to convey information, but also things like how saying or showing the smallest bit can have enormous impact. And then there's pacing, there's rhythm. Video editing is writing. So I'll be back with you in a minute when I've done some. Yeah, no, it was a bit more than... Can you see how much darker it is here, or is the camera compensate? Hang on a second, let me just switch on this one. There we go. You can see by the way it obviously got cold, and I'm not sure that I think you need to know that, except this is a sign, isn't it? It's a sign that the MacBook Pro on my lap did not get hot the way they all used to. More disappointing though, I was using my watch to time how long all of this took, and the watch decided to stop timing it. So I can only tell you roughly, but I can tell you that it took, I mean, I don't know if this is any use to you really, but from having the idea through researching, writing, filming some inserts for it, editing the whole thing, exporting it, uploading it to YouTube, doing the poster artwork, writing the description, doing the scheduling, yeah, all that stuff. It took me 6 hours, 40 minutes or so. Plus I may have made some mistakes along the way. Anyway, what is important though is that I did this entire writing job on my day off. Everything, writing, thinking, production, all of it, sitting right here. I did move, but only to get tea. Everything else, every last bit of it, on one MacBook Pro. Although actually on more than one battery charge. I got this down from 100% to low power, going to sleep warning, and then having to plug it in something like 90 minutes ago. That was actually a day off for me, as I say. I've been working these really long hours every day for a few weeks, going right through the week, and you know what we're like. And I just had to stop. Had to stop for a day. I mean, you don't need to know that, although seemingly I need to tell you. But the thing of it is, when I had finished 8 or whatever hours it was in the end working on my day off, I was actually a bit sick of this MacBook Pro. I'd had enough. So if I sound like this machine is a golden, glowing, supernatural embodiment of joy, remember you can still spend too long in front of it. Mind you, when I was done, I watched Foundation on this MacBook Pro. And actually that's something else, something that's, well, it's not only hard to show, I think it's a bit pointless even trying, really, because it's about the screen. I can tell you that I watched this show, Foundation, on the MacBook Pro because the screen is startlingly tremendous. I mean, I can tell you actually now that I'm more likely to watch TV on this MacBook Pro than on my actual TV set because the screen is that good. There's just no way I can think of to show you that. I mean, unless you came round here to have a look, that'd be good, actually, wouldn't it? We could talk about your writing a bit more. You're not telling me enough about your writing. We could have tea. Anyway, the screen is one thing. You kind of have to take my word. Well, actually, my word, and also I think the word of absolutely everyone else, anyone else who has seen it. is there an Apple store near you? You could go take a look, except actually I did, didn't I? I went into my local Apple store to check out these machines before buying, and I wasn't impressed with the screen. Yeah, I mean, store lighting, very bright, very even, plus you're standing up looking down. At the screen, it was good. It just wasn't great. Back at home, on my couch, late at night, lights off, simply incredible. Wait, there's also the sound. I don't see how I can show you the sound. Okay, so there are two things you have to take my word on my word, and that if anyone who's tried these machines. I wouldn't go into the Apple store to try the sound, though, because on the one hand, the volume on this machine is so loud, it could well embarrass you. And on the other, seriously, in that huge open space of a typical Apple store, it's not going to sound as good. But when I very first set it up on that desk over there, I played some music, and this little machine made that desk shake. Which brings me, somehow, to the last thing I want to show you. No, wait, hang on, two things. Both short, one of them incredibly short. Let's do that one first. Right, so I'm going to this thing. Right, it would be really handy if I could do some work while I'm there. So, MacBook Pro, obvious choice. Yeah, no, I think it's going to take me a little while before I'm casual enough to just cart around all of this money's worth of MacBook Pro. But that's the whole point of them, isn't it? To have it where you work, where you need. So I've got to get out of it, got to get into the habit of taking and going out with it. Yeah, just give me a little bit longer. That was a few days ago now, and I am surprised to say I'm already beginning to be all right with taking the MacBook Pro. So you get there, don't you? When I do, the MacBook Pro it's just about all I need wherever I go. These 58 Keys episodes, they use a lapel mic, which you can see, and it's plugged into an old iPhone 6 for recording, which you can't see. But that means when I'm done, I have to get the audio off the iPhone 6 and onto the MacBook Pro. Every single time, I use AirDrop. Just put the two machines together, tap a button, watch. But if this isn't really a thing for me, isn't of interest to me, it might well be for you, because one of the benefits of the new MacBook Pro is that it has a lot of ports, has a lot of connections. You can pop an SD card in the side from your camera if you have one, or from certain audio recorders. For instance, there's a HDMI port for connecting to a TV set, if you want. And then there are these three USB-C ports, one on the right, two on the left, for connecting just about anything, really. You can even charge up the MacBook Pro plugging in a USB-C cable into the port and then plugging the other end into the mains. I think you know how that works. But speaking of charging, there is this one last port, and it is one that I appreciate. It's a MagSafe power port, which means you connect your mains cable to it, and it snaps into place really satisfyingly. But also, if you accidentally yank that cord, if you tread on the cable, it pulls out pretty much instantly and doesn't pull your MacBook Pro across the desk and onto the floor. I mean, I'm in the UK, where there's a television network called ITV, and long ago that was made up of very many different companies working together, and not quite so long ago they all had to bid for why they should keep going, why they should get to do this work. The story is that one company's executives spent the day before the deadline writing up their complex bid full of financial calculations and justifications into a laptop, and at about 3 a.m, one of those executives trod on the mains cable. They didn't break the laptop, but they did pull out the cable, and they lost all of their work. I don't remember now, actually, if they were a new company bidding to get a franchise or an existing one trying pretty desperately to keep the one they had, but I do know that they failed. I also know that they had a rubbish laptop. I mean, what kind of laptop is on mains all day and then doesn't have a battery that lasts for 10 seconds? Quite clearly, what they should have done is bought a 2021 14-inch MacBook Pro. Yeah, I said I got a bit sick of this machine. I also said it was extremely expensive, and I don't want to tell you. Can't think about it. But do check out the 58 Keys video, links below, about deciding which huge amount of money to spend on the MacBook Pro. This is the machine that I decided on in that video. So anyway, sick of it, expensive, so costly that I'm a bit twitchy about taking it outside. Still, Yes, I am very, very glad I have this machine. In the quite brief time I've had it so far, it's changed how I work almost every day. It has become almost my main Mac. There are just a few tiny little things that I find I go back to my desktop Mac for, and I can see that changing too. I know it's going to change. Not because of how great these new machines are with things like video editing, but for how great they are at everything. I'm a writer. You're a writer. No, we do not need an expensive new MacBook Pro, but we can be damn glad when we have got one. That's it for this special 58 keys. Thank you very much for watching. Now we've got all this great gear, we have no more excuses. Let us both go write some more while that screen turns pink and confuses me. Take care of yourself. I'll see you soon.